So welcome everybody to the Kubernetes 1.14 release team weekly meeting. Today is Monday, February 4th. I am your host, Aaron Krickenberger, welcoming you to this wonderful publicly recorded meeting in which we all adhere to the Kubernetes code of conduct, which boils down to please don't be a jerk. And remember that everything you say here will be posted to YouTube later for all to enjoy or mock, take your pick. We are at week 5. Week 5 is the only week in the originally planned schedule that didn't have a thing scheduled. Like there was no milestone, there was no deadline, there was no nothing. And then enhancements freeze came and went, and everybody was like, wait, what's a cap? So we now have today, I guess, is kind of a deadline for people to get their caps written, get their caps merged, and then anything that had an enhancement tracking issue but didn't have a cap will be reevaluated today for inclusion into the 1.14 milestone. So great, everybody did a thing with caps. I just, as an experiment, last Saturday, I created a GitHub bot account solely for it to watch the enhancements repo. I set it up to have it do email notifications and send them to an email address. And in that week, between last Saturday and the Saturday that just happened, it got over 1,290 emails. So people were clearly doing stuff. The question now is, remember, we asked everybody to have caps associated with their enhancements so that we could use them. Can we use them? What I had asked people to do is to put sort of a test plan and an upgrade downgrade plan in their cap, as well as some kind of checklist in the graduation criteria area that we, the release team, could consume as sort of a go, no go checklist for whether or not an enhancement is okay to land in this release. I'm okay if this checklist is a little squishy or vague right now because everybody's still busy hacking away and coding. But I would like for us to be I would like for that checklist to be a little more solidified and usable by us, the release team, as we approach code freeze. The situation I want to avoid is people feeling like goalposts are moving on them as we get to code freeze. So it's important that we take these next couple of weeks to evaluate whether, from a CI signal perspective, can you understand if the tests are actually being run and if they're actually passing? From an enhancement perspective, does it look like this enhancement is actually complete and everything for it has landed? From a docs perspective, do we feel like we have a grasp on the appropriate level of documentation that needs to land for this particular enhancement? From a release notes perspective, is this showing up in the release notes draft in a way that's explainable? From a comms perspective, are we going to be talking about this? So every member of the release team has something that they can get out of these caps, and I look forward to us actually going through and using them to make this a more stable release. So there's that. Any questions on caps? All right. Just also up at the top here, my goal is to do a lot less rambling from here on out because y'all are the ones doing the work. So I'm more interested in hearing what you have to say. So I'll try and blow through the rest of these things a little more quickly. I am aware that there is work ongoing to cut releases a slightly different way, to empower the community to be more involved in the process and maybe even get to a point where alphas and betas and RCs can be cut all the way to a Debian or RPM file, whereas today there are a set of bits that land in a tarball. So I know that Hannes has talked about this in a KEP and tried to get some folks to talk about it in a sig-release release team meeting. I know that SIG cluster lifecycle is very, very interested in this from the kubeadm subproject perspective. And I would like to see those groups of people sort of collaborate to make sure that we, the release team, are kept informed of how the bits are getting cut and what the schedule and plan for that is. If one of the things I should be doing up front is telling you my vision or what I'm paranoid about, one of the things I'm paranoid about is that we find ourselves cutting a brand new release, a brand new way that we've never tried before at the very last day. That's not where I want to be. So I would like for us to understand how much of this new way of doing things we're going to have in place prior to code freeze and whether or not that's sufficient. Finally, Mike Arpaia has an issue out in the sig-release repo about scheduling a more European-friendly meeting for the release team. Historically, we've had one in more of a US-friendly time zone and one in a European-friendly time zone. Now that we have all of the shadows in the release team, we can sort of see the breakdown of where everybody's at. It seems like we have roughly 30 people in US time zones and roughly 16 people in European time zones. So we're going to try and find a way for the release team to be effective by starting to spread the load across time zones. So look for Mike to put out a doodle to figure out what time works best for everybody. And our goal would be to have this decided upon by the end of this week, such that we can announce when a European-friendly meeting is happening next week. So as I mentioned, I believe the two upcoming milestones for us to be aware of would be that end of day today, Claire's going to go through as the enhancements lead and make sure that anything that didn't have a KEP but does now and had an enhancement tracking issue gets folded back in. And then next week, Tuesday, February 12th, Hannes will be cutting the next build of V114, alpha.3. That's all that I have. I'm super excited to hear from everybody else. So with that, let's kick it over to Claire.
Hey everyone. So after enhancement freeze, we had a bit of a trim down in our metrics. So we are now at 25 enhancements that are being tracked. Again, 26 of those were deferred because of missing or incomplete cups. If a cup is merged by EOD today, they'll get added back to the milestone. So expect that number to increase. Of those 29 enhancements, 9 are alpha, 9 are beta, and 11 are stable. And after today, if you have an enhancement that you would like to get added to the 114 milestone, it will require an exception. Any questions?
Just from your perspective as the enhancements lead, and I think some of your shadows are on the call, I'm curious if y'all wouldn't mind spending a couple minutes just talking about how the experience has gone for you. What worked well? What did you notice a lot of? What did you wish you had seen more of?
Sure. From my experience, then I'll pass it over to any of my shadows who are on. I think retrospectively, we probably could have done more to really iterate that KEPs were mandatory during this cycle. But I think with all releases, when you try to do new process, there are some hiccups, and we iterated really fast and were able to say, okay, we'll give an extension just for KEPs. I think things that also have gone really well have been generally folks are very responsive to the issue pings on GitHub, which is great. KEPs are getting merged, I've seen pretty quickly over the weekend. Yeah. I think I see Lockie on if you want to say anything.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add other than what Claire said. I think, you know, a few surprises for folks as to what it means. I think still the state that they need to be in is a little bit fluid in getting to implementable and what exactly that means and who exactly that means something to is still a little fluid going from, you know, provisional to implementable. So just getting the states, I think folks are still getting used to it in the community, but as Claire had mentioned, given that people are around ready to help out when we were shepherding them into this process, I think was a good outcome. So I think for next time, certainly there'll be a lot more folks with a lot more skin in the game, and we will get the KEP process better as well as a result of this. So hoping to take some of the learnings back to SIG-PM and see if we can't make it a little more clear around provisional to implementable specifically, I think, which is around the things that Aaron kind of called out earlier, checklists. That was it from me.
Cool.
I also
Thank you
think
for
Loak is on as well. If you want to add anything.
Yes, just to add that somehow some folks complains about lack of information about the new KEP mandatory workflow. It's in a major part resolved by speaking to them, because they didn't understand why they were removed from milestones. It's going on, so no problem for us. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks to all of you. That was me trying to prime the pump a little bit for the fact that we do have a retrospective at the end of all of our releases, and I figured it was a good chance to just talk about that while it was fresh in your minds. I pasted a link to the retro doc in chat. A link to that retro doc is also available at the top of the meeting minutes, and the link is Kate's 114-retro. So as you see stuff that works well, stuff that doesn't work well, things that you'd like to suggest as improvements going forward, that's definitely a place to put them so that we as a community can talk about them at the end of this release cycle. So thank you all for your input. I just tried to briefly summarize that in there. And yes, to Laki's point, I'm trying to suggest that KEPs as a process are a thing that are owned by SIG-PM. So this release team is interested in how we can use them tactically to make our lives better. SIG-PM is interested in how this can be a much smoother process and strategically what's involved and who all of the stakeholders should be, and trying to answer all of those questions. So we're encountering all of this live and iterating live. And I feel like we iterate where we get to a point where it's just good enough for us, but I'm sure there's lots more follow-up that could be done. And I'm hoping that's the forum to do it. Thanks for the updates, everybody. So moving on, George, am I pronouncing that right? And are you on for CI Signal?
I am on, and that's right. So, hey everyone. Also, this is my first week as a shadow, and I'm already giving updates since I'm covering for Maria. She's traveling. So, thanks to for you guys to stay some couple things for you guys to stay informed. Release master blocking jobs. There are currently a couple jobs failing. I think there's a PR open from SIG storage. There was a problem on their end, and they are currently working on fixing it. Now and then the other big change, especially since for most of the jobs since this weekend, there are 5 failing jobs on master upgrade. A lot of them, they need a little bit more hands-on and debugging from our end to be able to provide a little bit more feedback on what might actually have gone wrong. Some of them we track them down to a commit on test infra. Another issue, which I link, the 73775. Seems to be affecting mostly SIG cluster lifecycle, some of the upgrade tests they have, and also we provide some information to the last commit that seem to change something. But other than so, we'll be working on providing a little bit more information on why those jobs are failing, and in the coming days we will also be working on trying to create a process for deflaking jobs on a more robust basis, and that's it from our end.
Any questions? Okay, thanks for the update, George.
Thank you.
Over to Marco. Are you here to give us an update on bug triage?
Yes, hello everyone. I am Marco and I am bug triage shadow in this cycle. This is my first time doing an update, but hoping this is going to go well. So far, we have some metrics about the number of opened issues. It is 51 open and 10 closed. Also 36 open and 51 closed. Also, we have fixed those two links, so you can use them to check out how is it going so far. Also, we have bug tracking and fixed the link for that. Now you have a Google document with all the issues so far. And a new page is added, and it's called recently closed issues. It is what is closed in the last 10 days. We will try to get that updated and to see how is it going on so far. Also, we are currently talking and planning to switch to Airtable instead of Google Docs. We will try to do that in this cycle and to see can we form some team or group to work on that. And we will try to keep everyone updated as of the progress. So we are hoping that this is going to do well and to do the job. I hope I have not forgotten anything, but if there are any questions, let me know or let us know in the sig-release Slack channel.
I've posted a link to an issue in chat that's called Investigate Automation to Facilitate Tracking Spreadsheets. It sounds like that is maybe what you are talking about. I would appreciate some more insight on your plans as you have them. That seems like maybe the right issue to track that. If you are tracking this work someplace else, let me know.
Yes, this is about the issue I talked about, and we will try to keep everyone updated as far as we have more details.
Okay. Another comment for the rest of your team, Marco. There's some bug triage shadows who currently don't have their time zones listed in the contact spreadsheet. So when I spouted off those numbers about who's in a European friendly time zone, I'm just assuming everybody who doesn't have a time zone listed is not in the US. That's probably an unfair assumption. And it would be helpful for us to get that data filled in.
Okay, that sounds good. And I will ping our channel and see, is it possible to get that updated soon?
Thanks. Next up, we have Amit to talk to us about test infra.
Hey, so the number of pairs we merged this week was around 137, which is a big uptick from the last 2 weeks, where it was around 80 in the last 2 weeks. This is a pretty big uptick. The next upcoming milestone for test infra is that 110 jobs will be removed this week, and 114 jobs will be added the week after that. Regarding PROW, there were no PROW outages last week, but we did see increased failure rates from GitHub webhooks, which was apparently caused because of some networking issues on their side. And we've also been receiving a lot more case issues with the CLA bot, and that's pretty much undeterministic right now. And the last thing that I had was we moved the pull Kubernetes E2E Ops AWS job to an optional job, which means that you can give a test pull Kubernetes to get to run the job on your PR, but it would not be blocking by default. Since we migrated this to being optional now, we removed all the old statuses that were on old PRs, and they should now be all green. And that's it from us.
Thanks, Amit. Yeah, I'm curious. Did anybody notice when you used like a slash command, like Proud didn't seem to do anything? I know I did. Okay, cool. Jim, are you here to talk to us about docs?
Yep. Hey, everybody. This will be a real quick update. Just kind of waiting for all the KEP stuff to shake out so we see exactly what we're looking at as far as enhancements, and then talking about dividing that workload. So kind of in a holding pattern right now and keep engaging with the team as well as working on the release playbook. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Dave for release notes.
Yeah, so quick update. So I updated the PR for the draft release notes to include what we got from the end of day yesterday. We're also working on some of the manual processes around external dependencies and working on those this week and next. We'll also be starting to work on pinging the SIGs and SIG leads for major themes.
Okay. What's your gut feel about release notes at the moment? Any thoughts?
They look in a lot better shape after pulling from the last commit yesterday. I was a little worried before because there was only like probably like 10 to 15 release notes before. So it looks like a lot of the release notes are getting pulled in. I think our biggest focus area right now will be around the manual processes we need to do for like external dependencies and that, and make sure those all get brought in.
Okay, yeah, I just like looking at the draft. It feels really SIG centric right now. I'm gonna wonder if, as we get closer to the release date, I'm gonna start wondering, from the perspective of an end user, do these make sense to me? Or is this a question of like, we have these all broken down by SIG right now because it's easy to automate from the production perspective? And this is me just riffing and making stuff up. What I feel like I have seen historically in the past is that there's some confusion over what release notes are. So I think I still have this item on my plate from the 113 retro. The release notes are not supposed to be a dumping ground for everything a SIG did. They're supposed to be, what are the changes that landed in Kubernetes? And then possibly as a user, I feel like the release note should be like, what are the things that are interesting to me? Not what did each of the 30 SIGs land in Kubernetes, which is why we often have them broken down. Or in the past, I know when I worked on release notes, they were broken down into like, here's the action required before you upgrade your cluster. We did try and sort of bring up at a top level the new features or the big features, and that was going to sort of overlap with the like top 5 features. We would have comms sort of broadcast in a series of blog posts and things like that. So just as we start to think about what the theme of this release is, what the shape of it feels like, when I look at this release notes draft right now, it's difficult for me personally to get a sense of what that is.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that. And we actually have a meeting with all the shadows to kind of discuss, especially some stuff that you went through in the 1.13 retrospective. So I think we'll have a better update next week on that, what it'll look like.
Awesome, that sounds great. Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Dave. Natasha, I believe I see you on here. You want to talk to us about comms?
Yep. Hi, everyone. So the next step in comms, now that we have an enhancement freeze, is to meet as a team. So I sent around a doodle. there's a couple people that responded. There's several more that haven't. So if you received that email, please go in and select availability. Basically, this meeting is for the release lead, enhancement lead, release notes lead, any of their shadows, and anybody else that wants to join. But what we do is we go through the 25 different enhancements, and we look at the layout of the blog. So are we starting to see patterns? Are there certain ones on here that are ones that are going to be major for the community? Well, you know, major for this release. We're still a little boring here. And that is really going to help us kind of do a layout for the release blog. And then from that discussion, we will kind of pick out some of the enhancements that'll go in a 5-day blog series. And we kind of look at, okay, who's the SIG leads on those and who do we need to contact to kind of put on point to help write those blogs for the Kubernetes website. And so this kind of really, from a comms perspective, is a big planning meeting for us. And then from there, we'll start to riff on materials and get ahead of it versus, you know, the week right before the release goes out, we're trying to do the release blog. So if you have not responded to that doodle, I sent it over email, please do. And I can also paste it here in the chat window. But we're hoping to get something scheduled this week. If not, then ideally on the 11th, because we want to start getting a nice outline and framework and feedback even before we go into code freeze. Questions, concerns? All right, cool.
Thank you, Natasha. I mean, yeah, from my perspective, I have no idea what any of the enhancements are right now because my enhancements team has been doing such an awesome job, like shepherding all of them, that hasn't had to be a worry for me. But my goal is to start reading through those this week to get a better sense of the shape. Okay, release branch management. So Hannes said he was not going to be here to talk to us about that. Is anybody release branch shadow? Okay. Is anybody from the kubeadm subproject here to talk about their packaging work? Okay. So I will work to sync with that offline. As far as I know, cutting the alpha build was no less controversial than cutting the previous alpha build. The same issues happened, but they weren't showstoppers or crazy blockers. It was just kind of business as usual. Hands up, who here has actually used the alpha build of Kubernetes? Oh man. Oh wow. Okay, Mr. Kind over there. Nicely done. All right, that was more for my own curiosity. Thank you for that. So we have 30 minutes remaining of our hour-long meeting. Is there any way that you all would like to use the rest of those 30 minutes? Possibly by not being here. Okay, great. Like I personally have a sense of not entirely knowing what's going on, but stuff is definitely happening. And so I really appreciate everybody's effort in pushing stuff forward. So I think the best way for me to figure out what is happening is to go start doing a bunch of reading rather than holding everybody hostage here to chat about stuff. But if in the future we find that chatting about stuff is a better way for everybody to stay informed, I'm super open to that too. But it sounds like for now, I'm going to go off and enjoy the snow that is in Seattle and see you all later. All right. Happy Monday, everybody.
Bye.